It is June 10th, 2019. It's 28 years, 11 months, and 16 days since I masturbated or had an affair. That's my sobriety definition. It's from Mighty Mac in San Francisco and Oliver in Iceland. Mighty Mac is asked about how to date successfully. If you watch the first 3 in this series, you found how not to date, how to not be codependent and love addicted, romance addiction, and sex addiction, and just a mess so that your life's ending like this or like this. You don't want your life going that way and just having your heart broken, just being a mess of goo. So the 4th video talked about having feelings, boundaries, limits, and needs, the skill set you need internally to be able to exercise before you approach. So by the time I got through from 16 to 35, and I went through 300 women, which I feel sad about, and I made amends to in the summer of 94, all 300 of them. I spent the entire summer doing that. I've realized that I might need a little help. And so I did something that had never occurred to me ever in my life. I did something humble. I said, I might not be able to manage this by myself. So I got on my knees and said, God, if there is a God, and I'm not saying that there is, but if there is, and if it's possible that you might care about me, and notice me and my troubles and my slings and arrows of outrageous fortune with women. If there is a God, could you give me a little help here? Because I've gone through 300 women. I've had to spend the whole summer making amends to them, and I've hurt them, and my heart's been broken, and I'm 35 years old, and I just want a loving, healthy relationship. And it's clear to me that I don't know what to do. So if there is a God, and I'm not saying there is, but if there were a God, would you might lend me a little bit of help here? Please, please, please. And I said, send me one of your daughters. That was my prayer. Now, it doesn't matter whether there's a God. It doesn't matter whether God will help you. What matters is the willingness to learn. That's what we call humility. So what we do is act as if you don't believe there's a God, we don't care. If you're Hindu, Muslim, Jew, Christian, Sikh, Sunni, Buddhist, we don't care. Just all we care about is if you have the willingness, the humility to learn something you don't know. Because if you're not in a relationship, and you want to be, and you're not married or have a girlfriend or having healthy, dynamic, loving, close, intimate sex, there's something you don't know. Because if you did know it, you'd be doing it. So this humility was really important. That was a turning point in my life. I said, let's just say that you invented the world and invented women. They're more complicated than I can figure out. I can't figure women out. Will you help me? So that prayer was the pivotal point. That changed it. And the second thing I did was practical. I had to use my judgment and say, what kind of women do I like? And this I felt a little embarrassed about. And so I did an inventory. In the inventory, I found out this. I like women who can be emotionally present, who have feelings to share, so that we don't become addicted and we have intimacy first. Because I knew by that time, if we didn't share feelings together, it was going to end up in addiction and breaking heart. So I wanted a woman who was in touch with her feelings. I wanted a woman who could commit so that she wouldn't cheat on me, physically or emotionally. My heart wouldn't get broke like it did in the first 3 videos. I didn't want that. I wanted a woman who had some sense of a power greater than herself, so that when she got needy, she would turn to her God instead of turning to me, and wouldn't lean on me emotionally. I needed somebody who had some spiritual chops of her own. And then the 4th thing I needed somebody who liked to have sex, because there are women who are hurt, who don't like to have sex. They're anorexic, they're asexual, because typically they've been sexually abused as children, and they haven't worked through that, so they just stay away from all sex. And I was involved with a woman like that, and that's very painful and very lonely. So those 4 things were basic things I wanted. And then I said, God, as long as you're in the neighborhood and we're talking about things, I'd also like somebody who's short, has small feet, small hands, and large breasts, because that's just what I like. So I had 8 things, and I had to be honest with myself, even if I felt embarrassed about what it was that I wanted. I had to be honest, because we believe in recovery. You have to be honest. So those are the 8 things I wanted. So I started off with a prayer to a power greater than myself, which I had no understanding about. But I knew I wasn't doing a very good job. So, I just roll the dice. How much trouble can you get in? If there's no God, you just wasted 30 seconds. Who cares? But if there is, might be better off. And then I said, okay, I had to use my judgment. Since I knew about myself and the 8 things I wanted, I knew where they had women like that. And those women were in a 12-step group called Adult Children of Alcoholics. And I had seen them for several years in recovery. And I was really attracted to them. And I thought, if I ever get divorced, this is where I'm going to go shop. This is where I'm going to go shop. So several years later, about 3 years later, I was divorced. And I began to look there. And within about 3 weeks, I found my first relationship because I knew what I wanted. I had prayed for help. And I put myself in a place with people that I was attracted to. And in the next, so that's what I did. That's the way to start, with those 3 things: prayer, asking for help, finding out what it is you like, and being in reasonably the right population that will yield the net result you want. The next video, we'll talk about the results of that shopping.